Greetings, it's me Chase, and I wanted to comment on the video of the officer who shot the young U.S. Airman. I've been seeing some comments on the whole situation, and it's just, I don't know why, I've just been prompted to say something about it in a video like this. I usually don't do this, but I decided to do it. By the way, I'm going to use some water here because I do have a bit of a sore throat right now. So there's been a lot of people, I've been just seeing comments from people about this situation, which is a horrible situation all the way around. It's a sucky situation. It's just terrible. I would want to say that there's, you know, when I read comments, I can kind of tell the difference between somebody who's looking at reality as reality is and reality as though it's some kind of just black and white TV show, movie, where the good is very clearly discernible from the bad kind of stuff. You can kind of tell the difference between those kinds of individuals who just don't understand what reality actually is. It is actually possible in reality for neither side doing anything wrong, and tragedy still happens. It's possible. Things like that happen. Now, at the same time, I would say I watched some of Officer Tatum's commentary on the whole thing. I pretty much agree with. I haven't finished his thing, but I pretty much agree with what he was saying. I think he did a great analysis, especially as a former police officer. I have never been a police officer. I have watched plenty of police body cam videos of shootings. I watched a lot of Donut Operator. He was a police officer, and I get kind of an idea after watching a lot of these things what standard police protocol is. I have also never been in an actual shootout in my entire life, thank God. Hopefully that stays that way. But I still recognize, I still understand, and I train for, whenever I do training with my dad, I train for those kinds of scenarios, things like that could happen. And I wanted, by the way, I'm wearing this shirt here. You see this? Just wearing that. So all the people who are trying to say that you're anti-Second Amendment, don't come at me. I am very pro-Second Amendment here. But anyway, so a lot of these comments just don't reflect reality. Now, let me just say again, where the police officer went wrong, Tatum was very, very right in that it's a domestic violence call, essentially. And that's one of the things that, I watched the civil rights lawyer. I never even heard of the guy until now, but I watched the civil rights lawyer thing on the whole video, and that's what prompted me to want to make this video, by the way, essentially. But it was also just reading a lot of comments that I was just like, but, and the guy I don't know this guy, again, I don't know who he is, but he's just demonstrating very clearly to me that he just doesn't understand, again, the way reality works in terms of these kinds of situations. One thing I will criticize the officer on, going to a domestic call without backup. That is not a good idea. And Tatum calls it out. Yeah, you don't do that stuff. You do not go without backup. And it's funny because I see so many situations. I'm going off a rebel. I want to go off a rebel, but so that's one thing that the officer did that was not good at all. That was a big mistake. But would that have changed anything? Probably not. Two officers at the door still. Guy could have answered the door with a gun in his hand and got shot. But so, anyways, we digress on that point. But I'm hearing all these comments about people saying, he didn't pose a threat, he didn't raise the gun or anything like that. Again, these are the comments that I read and I just go, you do not understand what it means to be in a shooting situation. Sorry, you just don't. You don't. You think this is the movies. You think this is the movies where you can sit there for a moment and go, there's a gun in his hand, but it's not raised. So therefore, the probable chances of him being a threat are dramatically reduced, and so I should be safe, given that he doesn't raise that gun. That's not how this works. That's not how it works. Okay. Here's the thing. Here's what reality actually is. And you can just watch MMA for this too, MMA fighting. I was actually just watching, I don't know why, but I just, before I saw that video of the civil rights lawyer, I was watching an old fight between Luke Rockhold and Tim Kennedy. It's a bit of a boring fight, but what I noticed though, is how incredibly well Luke Rockhold defended Kennedy's takedown attempts. And especially because it became clear to me that Kennedy's game plan was to basically try to, as Luke is going in for any of those sweeping hooks, duck under the hooks and grab him and bring him to the ground. Kennedy clearly did not want to fight him on the feet. So he was going to go for the takedown to take down Luke Rockhold. Well, unfortunately, Luke Rockhold had incredible takedown defense. So it didn't work out very well for Kennedy. So, but there's a couple of these moments in the fight, and I didn't even see it. I mean, it was so fast, boom, like that. And Kennedy just drops underneath a hook to go for the legs. Is initially successful, but Rockhold, what Rockhold does is a standard takedown defense. He immediately kicks his legs back so that Kennedy cannot get his legs. That's the whole point of a takedown. A takedown requires you to grab the legs, scoop them up, and bring them to the ground. But Luke Rockhold just instantly just reacted and just threw his legs out so he could not get to the legs. That's not something you're doing. You're not thinking when you do something like that. That's training, okay? Luke Rockhold trained for that. So he's not, because the moment is so fast, you don't have time to think. Training in combat sports, training in gun shooting, it's all the same thing. Training in whatever, anything. But especially in in terms of something that involves violence, like combat sports or shooting scenarios, you do not have time to think in those moments like they can in the movies. In the movies, they got all this time to think. In the reality, it's not like that. That's just not how it is. So what you do is you train and you create triggers in your mind. You create switches by the constant training. So that when the moment comes, boom, you just go. It's just like that. It's instant. And you don't even realize you did it until it's done. That's what training is. When Kennedy shoots for the legs, Luke is not even thinking. I mean, there's thinking involved, but he's not thinking at the same time. He's just reacting instantly. Oh, he's going from the legs. Oh, I know what to do. And boom, and he just kicks his legs out. Just boom, fast, instant. He doesn't sit there. He doesn't even have time to sit there and go, okay, he's going for the legs. What do? I could try to kick out and go to the left and see if I can get him on the flank. Or maybe I could try to go for the right and see if I... No, you just, boom, legs out. Like that. Every single time. Boom, legs out. Boom, legs out. You know, it's just, boom, goes like, boom, legs out. Instant. It's the same thing in a shooting scenario. When you train for these kinds of things, you're trained to gun. You know, it's the training. The training just kicks in. That's how these things work. I had a coworker one time. She had a gun in her purse. I saw it one time. I asked her, "Do you ever train drawing that pistol from that purse?" She said no. And I said, "It's not going to do you much good if you don't train with that, because what's going to happen to you is in the situation when someone's going to try to attack you." And she was a very attractive young lady. Someone's going to try to attack you. I said was. She's still alive, but someone's going to. If someone attacks you, you're going to panic. You're gonna suddenly go, you know, and I've seen it happen in a video before. A lady barely gets her gun out as a guy tries to attack her and shoots him out of her purse. She barely gets it out in time. It happens so fast. And what you need to do is you need to train. So I train drawing my gun. I have a appendage carry. I train to draw it. Now, sometimes what I'll do is I'll just, when I'm not doing much, I'll just kind of practice drawing it. With the shirt, draw it. Like that, you know, I'll just practice that. So that's, when the moment happens, I'm not sitting there thinking about, you know, is my gun on my hip or is my gun right there? Is it loaded? Is it? No, I just go instantly. It's just a switch that just goes off because you don't have the time to sit there and think. So when everybody here is sitting there talking about, well, the gun's not raised, it's just sitting at his hip, it takes less than a second to raise that gun. It just takes, you know, like that, like that. I've seen it in a police cam video. A female police officer comes up to this guy who's out in the middle of nowhere. It's dark at night, and she has him roll down the window. He rolls down a little bit, and the dude just in an instant just went boom and tried to shoot her in the head. He barely missed, but it was so fast, incredible. And she didn't even see it because he had it concealed. So it was way off over here. She's way off over there. He still managed to get it up like that in less than a second. So, but now you're in a situation where the guy is not off to the flank like that, where he would have to turn like that. He's already square with you. All he has to do is this in less than a second. That's all it takes. So if you're sitting there and you're a police officer, you don't know this guy, you've just been called to a domestic violence incident, you're already on alert. What are you going to do? You're not going to sit there and go, looks, there's a gun right there. What kind of caliber is that? I wonder if that is that a real gun? Maybe it's not a real gun. You're not going to do that stuff. And if you think that's how it goes, you just don't understand this stuff at all. You don't understand it. Don't give me this whole, well, I know police officers. That to me is just a bunch of manure. No, maybe, I don't know. That just doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make any sense. So don't come out here and tell me, well, he didn't have it raised. No, it can come up in an instant and open fire and shoot. Well, he was going to do that. He wasn't a real threat. You don't have time to sit there and analyze whether he's a real threat. Gun. That's all you have. And if that's you, this is a guy you don't know. You've just been called to a domestic violence incident, and you see a guy answer the door with a gun in his hand. What are you going to do? You're going to sit there and try to analyze the situation, give him the moment to ambush you, or are you going to make sure I'm going to shoot you first before you shoot me? Well, he wasn't going to shoot. You don't know that. You don't know. That's the thing with these domestic violence incidents. They're so unpredictable, you don't know. And that's why, again, that brings me to people saying, well, he knocked on the door and he stood off to the side. Like there's a peephole, no one could see him, so it could have been somebody's. I keep telling everybody, it was a domestic violence call. When you're a police officer and you're called to a domestic violence call, as Tatum said, you don't want to stand in a funnel of death, which is a doorway, okay? So you're going to knock on the door and you're going to stand off to the side. You're not going to sit right in front of an obvious, because obviously to get from point A to point B, which is outside the room, into the room, you have to go to the door. So therefore, if the bad guy is waiting for the police officer, he knows where he's going to come from, so he's going to wait for him at the door, right? So you don't stand in front of the door. He knocks. I've heard people saying, he didn't announce himself. Even my police officer buddy who I work with, he's a former police officer, said that, because he hadn't seen the video yet. He watched a lot of police activity stuff too, but he hadn't seen this one. Even he thought, because of the rumor spreading, well, I guess the cop didn't announce it. I was like, no, he did announce it. I watched the video. He announced sheriff's office, I think at least 2 times. He announced himself quite loudly. Okay, so that's a lie. He announced himself. He's on a domestic violence incident, which means a domestic violence call, which means unpredictability. So when he knocks on the door, he's not going to be standing in the doorway. He's going to take all the precautions to protect himself. And then, of course, the guy answers the door. The cop's already on edge because of the fact of the call, the nature of the call. He sees a guy with a gun in his hand. Look, and again, I am an absolute advocate for the Second Amendment right. I got a gun right there. I got an AR-15 right over there. I got a couple of guns in my place. Okay, I am all for your right to defend yourself. But if a police officer came to my door, even apparently, let's just assume somebody called a domestic violence incident on me for whatever reason, and whatever. Dun, 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 knock on my door. Police office, police office, whatever, San Antonio police, open up. I'm not going to answer the door with a gun in my hand. No. Why would I do that? That's a stupid idea. You're just asking to get shot. Don't answer the door with a gun in your hand. That's nothing to do with the Second Amendment issue. Oh, you're just not for people. No, that's not at all what this is about. I am for your right to carry, whatever. But I'm not for your right to be stupid and do stupid things. Like answering the door to an announced police officer with a gun in your hand. whether you intended harm or not. It's a dumb idea. I've told people before, you know, for whatever reason, I end up getting guns pointed at me, for whatever reason, by the police. I have my gun on me. I'm going to tell them with my hands up, sir, officer, I have a gun on me, and that's it. I'm not going to reach for it. If you want it, you go get it, okay? I'm gonna let you get it. Because if I reach down there, I'm gonna get shot. Because he doesn't know what I'm gonna do. So I'm just not gonna reach for it. I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna keep my hands up. That's all I'm gonna do. You can handcuff me and then take my gun, whatever. But I'm not gonna do that. That's the better way to go about it, okay? Because you're gonna get shot, because these guys, they don't know, they cannot, because it happens fast. I can just really quickly. So they gotta be quicker to save their own lives. Contrary to popular belief, police officers do have a right to protect themselves as well. If they feel threatened, they have a right to use their weapons to defend themselves, okay? Now I got all this other stuff about people saying, well, you know, criminals always impersonate police when they go to the door. And I just want to ask these people, my question is, okay, so what's the solution? What do you do? What's your solution to this situation? What's your solution? So you're setting up this, and I'm asking that because you're basically setting up this impossible scenario where there's no win. So your solution is, you know, okay, therefore, so because, you know, actual criminals impersonate police officers, which yeah, they do, okay? Because they do, therefore answer your door with a gun in your hand when somebody announces that they're the police. Well, we saw how that just happened. So that's your solution. And continue with this naive, utterly uninformed idea that, well, as long as I'm not raising the gun, I'm not a threat to the police. Sorry, you don't know anything about, you don't know what you're talking about. You just don't know. You're naive. You've never actually taken the time to think about the stuff. We've never actually done any kind of training. You don't know what it's actually like. And you say, well, Chase, you just admitted you've never been in a shooting. No, I haven't. But that's not what I'm talking. I'm talking about understanding the nature. I don't think you need to be in an actual shooting to understand the nature of what shooting actually involves. You know, the emotional fitness, the mental fitness, and the fact that these things happen in instants, typically. Adrenaline rushing, you know, you tend to do things that you typically wouldn't do. And a lot of times what happens is you kind of black out because, you know, after the incident, certain details you won't even remember. And someone else will say, you know, man, you don't realize this, but you did this, and you in that instance, like, what I did, like, because that's the nature of the whole thing. Sometimes you won't even realize, until afterwards. I drew my gun and fired. I didn't even think about it. I just went, did it, boom. Didn't think about it. Just did it. That's the actual nature of these things. These aren't things that happen and you're all calm and bliss in your mind and everything is just kind of like, you know, whatever. And like in the movies, where these guys in the movies can go and get into this huge, massive shootout, and at the end, act like nothing happened, just be completely calm and crack a joke, whatever, here and there, whatever. When in reality, in vast majority of situations, after a big shootout, adrenaline dump. That's what usually happens. You know, that's the way it actually works. So, you know, I just wanted to make some comments on that whole stuff, but it was a crappy situation all around. That young man, I'm sure he was a nice guy. Didn't mean anybody any harm. And in fact, you see in one of the videos, he actually has the gun right here and he has his hand up like that. And so he's clearly trying to announce he's not a threat. Well, you know, it's very sad, it's very tragic. But if you want to show that you're not an actual threat, don't answer the door with a gun in your hand. That's the lesson we learn here. Well, what if they're not actually police? You know, they may not be, but what are your options? Again, what's your solution? Answer the door with a gun in your hand. That's your solution. Again, I say, look how that turned out. So that's clearly not a good idea. Don't answer the door. They may be criminals, and you know, but the thing is, sometimes guys, Those are the chances you have to take. Okay. Someone else also said in response to that kind of a objection, then you call the police and confirm that everything's cool. And if the officers on the other end are real officers, they'll probably wait and go, okay, sure, we'll wait outside, If they're not, then they'll probably start trying to barge into the door. And then you might have a reason to be very suspicious. But, so just call the police and just say, hey, I got people on my door claiming to be police officers, whatever, and I just want to confirm that, because I'm a little freaked out here, blah, blah, blah. And there you go. So that's a solution. But this whole idea of, well, because police officers or people who impersonate police officers in order to get into people's homes, okay, so then answer the door with a gun in your hand. That's your solution. Okay. It just shows, and let me just say this as well to everybody who's saying, well, you have a right to carry, to carry a gun, blah, blah, blah. Look, and they're using that as that's just their answer to everything. No, it doesn't matter. You have your right to carry. He was not a threat anyway. It's like, oh my gosh. Like I said, you have a right to carry a gun in America, but you don't have a right to be stupid and make stupid choices. Sometimes people get shot over things, complete misunderstandings, but sometimes it's because they were doing something stupid. I guess you can say you do have a right to be stupid, but you don't have a right to call out people for suffering the consequences of your stupidity and doing dumb things. And say, are you trying to say that this poor dead airman did something stupid? Yeah, I'm saying that. He did something very, very stupid. And he paid for it with his life. But anyways, let me just say here, I am all for the Second Amendment. I'm all for your right to carry. But I hate going to ranges, like, your standard indoor ranges and everything like that. We went to a gun range one time to pick up a gun, and my dad wanted to test it out, so we had to go to the shooting range, and I had to sign all this stupid stuff, that I was like, I understand all this, yeah, whatever. I felt like such a newbie to shooting. Like, I'm not a newbie. My dad and I, we go to a private range and we do our own stuff. So here we are, we're sitting at this indoor range, and I feel like I'm just a beginner again. We go in there, and I've always liked to say this, it's my little saying, shooting ranges are where you go to develop bad habits. Shooting ranges are for people who have guns, but don't take it seriously. No, they don't actually train with them. They don't understand the gun that they're shooting. They probably don't even clean it. They just shoot it after for a while, and then they'll just sell it for something cheap dirt, and go get another one, whatever. But it never fails me, and this one time it happened, once again, there is always some dude right next to me, and there's probably some dude right next to him, on both sides of me, who just this guy's got a target that's like 7 feet away from him as he's shooting his pistol, and he's shooting it like this. What's this hand doing? It's doing that. The recoil doesn't go down, it goes up, so why are you doing this? And he's all over the place. He's just everywhere. That's not good. You don't want to be all over the place. What you're looking for is consistency, and you're looking for a good grouping of shots, of hits. Got a good grouping? All right, you're doing pretty good. If you're all over the place, that's not good. That's a guy that, even though I say, yes, you have a right to carry, that's a guy I would not want protecting me. I don't want that guy having a gun, because that guy is going to do more harm than good. When something happens, you really want a guy who shoots like that to have a gun in his hand? I sure don't. That's the vast majority of Americans, because guys like him support the Second Amendment, but don't understand the reality of guns. Just don't understand it. And that's the vast majority of all these people, saying, defending the actions of this deceased airman. That's just the reality of it. If you're going to defend the right to carry a gun, understand the reality of a gun, and understand the reality of modern, gunfights. Understand that stuff. And understand the fact that you can't just walk around with a gun in your hand. Oh, he's in his home. Doesn't matter. You answer the police with a gun in your hand. Doesn't matter. And just expect everything to be okay. That's just the way it is. All right, so those are my comments on the whole thing. So just wanted to make some brief comments there. So I will talk to you all later.